same decision every time. You know, Koundé seems to be the first option right now just because of the center back position seems to be set with Christensen and Araujo. And then, of course, you can make a decision. Do I go with Balde? Do I go with Jordi Alba on the left-hand side? These are difficult decisions, but they're good decisions to have. And we saw him make that decision against Villarreal, where he went with Balde to start, and then he brought Jordi Alba on and kept Balde on the pitch. So there's a lot of options for him to work with, and it's all going to be determined and I think predicated on what he wants to do and how he wants to contain the likes of Marcus Rashford and others.
They say when you want to have a successful team that you have to build it from the back. Well, in the case of Barça with Ter Stegen and the defensive line is absolutely astonishing and incredible. But there is also another protagonist in midfield that is called Pedri, that the other day they scored an incredible goal with Lewandowski in that combination. And there were many people saying he needs to score more goals, he needs to be more protagonist there. And I mean, the numbers also from Pedri are incredible. It's 6 goals in the league, the same number of goals that he scored in the previous 2 championships.
Yeah.
Because he also scored 6 goals, but in 2 leagues. And
yeah.
Now he has scored 6 goals, plus the one in the Super Cup, so it's 7 in all competitions. Well, the importance of Pedri, it's nothing new.
Only Lewandowski has more goals than he does in Blaugrana this season, and that's in part because he's shooting more. I also think that recently he's been getting more of an opportunity because since Xavi has decided that 4 midfielders is the way to go, instead of playing your typical 4-3-3, it still looks like a pseudo 4-3-3, if you will, but there's a license for any one of those 4 midfielders to get further forward and help, in this case, Lewandowski and Raphinha in support. So Pedri was that guy in the goal against Villarreal, which we'll see shortly. He was the guy that, all right, I'm going to get forward because there's an opening and because Gavi's all the way back behind where Araujo is. I'm going to be the person this time, but maybe next time it'll be somebody else.
Why would I have an eye on what happened last weekend in the Estadio de la Cerámica, and where, of course, Pedri was one of the main protagonists of that game in what was a really important clash between Villarreal and FC Barcelona. Now the Blaugranas are leaders of the league with 11 points. Real Madrid are going to play this evening their postponed match against Elche. But right now it's a gap of 11 points. Here we have the goal. What a combination between Lewandowski and Pedri. Lewandowski that missed that first chance in the 1-1, but this suspense is just amazing.
It's tiki-taka football. I mean, it's if you had to ask somebody or explain to somebody what that means who had never seen it before, you just show them that play. It's boom, 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 bim, bam, pass, goal. And that's what we saw.
Yeah, and careful with Lewandowski. We've been talking about Pedri and all his goals, but Lewandowski has scored 45 goals in his last 37 European games, so of course a player that also likes to score in European competition. Pepe Reina, who played a great game. He's 40 years old, but he also made some really good saves. Look at this pressure from Barça, high pressure, making effect, and these are images from second half. Another really good opportunity. This cross or a shot from Lewandowski that went out.
Yeah, there were a lot of good chances generated. I was impressed with Villarreal because it's been a difficult season for them in the sense that they've had both their keeper and their manager leave halfway through the season. I just want you to think about what would happen if Xavi and Ter Stegen left Barça halfway through this season. What would that look like? How would you respond to that? It would be pretty difficult. Villarreal have been up to the challenge. Quique Setién has a difficult challenge in front of him, but Barça are up to the test themselves, and 1-0 seems to be the scoreline of the year.
So yeah, tomorrow this Europa League game between Barça and United, but of course we will have an eye on what happens today at the Bernabeu. Are you optimistic, Spence, with a surprise from Elche? I mean, it's tough, I think, but who knows what can happen there.
I know, I almost forgot that was a game that was going on today, because when we were watching the game on Sunday with Barça, we were saying we have a chance to go up double digits in the league to get up 11 points, but it's probably not going to last long because it's Madrid against the bottom of the table side. So you would expect Madrid to win, but hey, you're playing with house money. You never know.
Yeah. We have been talking a lot about Barça. Let's analyze a little bit how Manchester United arrives to this tie, because Spence, when there are the draws, this draw was celebrated in November, we always say, well, we will have to wait until February to see how these two teams arrives. And the case of Barça and Manchester were two teams that in November were not at their best. But here we have the last 10 results of Man United in all competitions, and you can see it: 3-0 against Charlton, 2-1 against City in that derby of Manchester. So impressive win, that one. Then it's true, the draw and a defeat against Arsenal.
That was a great game, though. What a game that was, the Arsenal United game.
And if we go down, well, these last two games against Leeds United from the Premier League, the 2-2 draw at home, and then the 2-0, the recent performance of Man United, thanks to the goals of Marcus Rashford and Garnacho.
Yeah, but you know what? I look at one thing on that list of 10 right there. I mean, we could point out a couple of different things, but mainly what I see is in the last 5 games, you go down to the last 2 games where Leeds, where they just played Leeds twice in a week in the league. The 4 games before that, Manchester United are on the left-hand side of your screen there. That means those games were played at Old Trafford. Mm-hmm. This game coming up tomorrow is going to be played here at the Camp Nou. And there's something about going into a packed stadium with 80,000, 90,000 rabid fans that you just can't simulate if you haven't seen it in a while. And I feel like that's got to be part of Barca's approach to feed off the energy of the crowd tomorrow night, to try and help them get that lead going into the second leg next week.
And Ten Hag is doing an incredible job. Actually, we can say United are in the battle for the Premier League. It's true that they are 5 points below with Arsenal with 2 extra games played. But, I mean, they are there in the fight. And if they continue with these great numbers, who knows if they can be there battling for that Premier League. And if they are there on the top part of the standings is thanks, probably most part of it, to Marcus Rashford, the Spence, who is absolutely in form for Manchester United with 21 goals scored in all competition, 13 after the celebration of the World Cup. So it's going to be, of course, the main weapon of United up front, Marcus Rashford, and of course also Bruno Hernández, the midfielder, has scored 7 goals. Anthony, the incredible signing on summer, and well, you also have there Casemiro, that is also one of the big stars of this Man United.
Yeah, so Barca are going to be reacquainted with their old friend from Real Madrid in Casemiro. But, Rashford is obviously the guy we need to start with. He's been in incredible form this year, mainly because he's getting the opportunity. You know, there were some times right before Ten Hag came in when he wasn't really playing at the same rate that he's playing this year. Now he is penned in, permanent marker on the sheet, on the starting 11 every week. And that makes it a lot easier to find your form throughout the season. And Bruno Fernandes was struggling when Cristiano Ronaldo was a part of this squad. He really wasn't in the form that we saw him in when he came over from Sporting initially. He was also a January transfer, if I remember right, a couple of years ago. And he started out in the Premier League. He was on fire. And then he started to fade off a little bit because the expectations were so high. But he's starting to find himself again under Ten Hag.
There has been a change. Man United with or without Cristiano Ronaldo, actually. It's true that Ronaldo has been an incredible player in football's history, but in this case, this year, with all the situation there with Ten Hag, since he has departed to Saudi Arabia, things have changed and are not going bad at all for Man United. 2 more signings this winter transfer market for United. Weghorst on loan from Burnley, and also Sabitzer from Bayern Munich. 2 players that arrived on loan, but yeah, more players that have arrived to United to improve this team.
And 2 players who came from the Bundesliga at some point, right? Sabitzer a little bit more recently, but Weghorst, who spent some time at Burnley, was also with Wolfsburg before that. And those are 2 guys who obviously very different skill sets. If I look at Weghorst, I'm thinking here's somebody who can get up in front and play a similar Cristiano Ronaldo type of role that United don't really have to utilize. He's a big body. He can win headers. He can get up. He's very physical. He's not afraid to hurt himself for the good of the team. And I think this is him. He finally sees this as his first opportunity too. I'd be interested to see what type of playing time, if any, he gets in this Europa League, because I'm sure he'll be a part of the plan. Mm-hmm.
You have there up in your screens the live image from the press room of the Ciutat Esportiva Joan Gamper. We are waiting to Raphinha, who's going to be the first protagonist, talking today to the media, previewing this match against Man United. Weghorst hasn't scored yet in the Premier League, Spence, but well, he has scored 1 goal in the League Cup. Let's see if he starts or not tomorrow. Talking about Barca, after having reviewed a little bit United, how do you think Xavi is going to try to stop all those important players for Man United. We can expect probably the 4-4-2, the lineup that has been working quite well for Barça in recent weeks.
Yeah, well, you said it yourself just a few minutes ago, is that in order to win, whether it's winning a game, winning a league, winning a tournament, you have to build from the back. And Barça will have to start by making sure that they keep United off the board during their matchup tomorrow. And that also includes making sure Marcus Rashford is marked at all times. And I think there are some rumors out there that Xavi might implement a little bit of a Vinicius-style strategy against Rashford, whether he puts Araujo on him or Koundé or whomever it might be. But Ten Hag he's a smart mind, right? He's going to be ready for everything. So you have to make sure that if Rashford is covered, that there's also cover elsewhere. And it's a lot easier to say and talk about that than to actually execute it.
We can assume, Spence, that Xavi and Barça are going to go with everything tomorrow, because it's true that the calendar is really busy with lots of league games, also the Copa del Rey tie, a special one against Real Madrid. But taking into account that the situation in the league right now, you are top of the league with an advantage of 11 points, I'll guess that tomorrow we have to go with everything. Yeah,
and fortunately for Barça, though you can't take any game for granted, as Madrid won't do tonight against Elche, Barça have their midweek game against Cádiz. And there are more difficult games, I would say, that you could play between your two United games. United have to play in the Premier League against Leicester City, who, though you might look at them at the table and say they're falling down, they're actually on the up. So that midweek game to me is always important to see how you can maintain and rotate your lineup as you get ready for the second leg.
Well, and Raphinha, that it's the main protagonist of today's press conference. A player, Spence, that after the injury of Dembélé also has made this step forward. It's going to be interesting to hear from him today in the press room. But how are you seeing Raphinha in these last weeks?
Yeah, he got a lot of criticism at the beginning of the season for not contributing, and I thought that was really unjust because he's contributed to the best of his abilities. He started with a goal, albeit in the preseason, a wonder goal against Inter Miami, and then he did it against Real Madrid, and he started out with 2 goals in 2 friendlies to begin. I thought he was great.
Yeah, and if you look to the numbers of Rafinha, also goals, assists, well, important and key player for FC Barcelona, the Brazilian that now is in the press room and is going to attend all media previewing this game against Manchester United.
Mañana vuelve la competición europea. ¿Qué esperas del rival de mañana?
What do you expect from your opponents tomorrow, who you played against in the Premier League?
Hola. Bueno, espero que va a ser un partido duro, pero
I expect a tough match,
partidos mejores de jugar y
but it's one of the best games you can play.
de la temporada. Pero bueno, espero que sea un partido bueno. Creo que va
Hope it will be a good match.
y bueno, va a ser un equipo difícil, pero
They're a tough side,
lo que tenemos que hacer para
but we know what we have to do in order to pick up the win.
¿Qué tal? Raphinha, aquí, Ramón Somorri de Catalunya Radio. Quisiera saber sobre todo cómo te sientes ahora, tus inicios en el equipo.
How do you feel currently after your start with your new team?
¿Cómo te has sentido y cómo
How was the adaptation,
el que tienes ahora y si te sientes cómodo en este momento?
and are you comfortable right now with your form?
Bueno, yo ya venía uns partidos jugando ya. Había partidos que no jugaba, pero otros.
Well, there were some games that I played and others I didn't,
Bueno, es normal. Yo estoy en la
and it's normal.
primera temporada en el club. Es normal
It takes time. It's my first season here
todos los jugadores
in this club. There's a period of adaptation for any player.
este momento de adaptación. Y bueno, yo estoy viviendo la mejor
And right now,
momento en el club
I'm certainly in the best moment since I've arrived,
de adaptación. Y
but I'm still in this moment of adaptation,
agradecer a mis compañeros
and I'm grateful for my teammates
que están
and the coach
todos los días intentando
who are helping me every day.
Hola, Rafinha, Marta Ramón de RACU. En este proceso de adaptación, ¿qué es lo que te pide Xavi?
What is it that Xavi asks of you during this process of adaptation?
No hay algo que falta, pero es normal cuando llega a un sitio.
It's normal that when a player arrives to a new place, he doesn't know anybody, doesn't know the style of play. So
Tener un momento
there's a moment where he needs to adapt to his new teammates and the style.
estilo de la liga, es normal.
And the style of the new league as well.
pero es solo el tiempo.
And right now, all I need is a bit more time.
Hola, Raphinha, Francesc Latorre de TV3. Permíteme que te pregunte por un compañero que se está hablando.
Let me ask you about a teammate of yours. Xavi always talks about how the squad is like a family. But how do you see Ansu Fati currently?
Es normal un jugador estar un poco más debajo porque
It's normal that
jugando, pero
if a player doesn't play as much, he's a little bit
una calidad.
maybe more down. But Ansu Fati
Vosotros conocéis
is a player of high quality, and you will know that better than me.
está jugando, está
So it's normal that if he's not playing, that he's a little bit
calidad y
more downtrodden.
a poner más arriba para
But we need to, all of us, help him to bring him up in order to, so that he has more confidence.
En los últimos años al Barça le ha costado competir en Europa, aguantar el
It's been tough for Barça to compete in the European competitions these last few years. You that have played
si lo ves preparado para
against teams like Manchester United, do you think Barça are physically ready to face an opponent like that?
no, yo veo que estamos bien preparados para
Yeah,
el partido.
We're well prepared for this game.
Toda la temporada.
Not just this game, but the whole season.
Partidos.
We're playing good games.
Bueno, creo que el cansancio va para todos.
Of course, fatigue isn't a factor for all of us.
Muchos partidos y
We're playing a lot of games, and so there's fatigue. But also on the other side,
pero bueno, veo que estamos en la nuestra mejor forma,
but we're currently in our best form,
que tenemos todo para seguir
and we have everything
competiciones.
that it takes to continue to advance to the next stage.
De relevo, ¿cómo te afecta a ti el hecho de jugar con 4 centrocampistas? ¿Te encuentras
How does it affect you playing with 4 midfielders?
No, a mí no me afecta nada.
It doesn't affect me.
Ahí tenemos que adaptarnos a
We need to adapt
de juego, toda manera de
to the style
y entonces
that the coach wants to play,
con 4 mediocampistas
whether it be with 4 midfielders or 3. We have to adapt,
posible para
and as fast as possible, in order to give the best of us.
Hola, Rafinha. Ricardo Rossetti para el golazo de Golplay. Me gustaría preguntarte a ti que has jugado en la Premier, como te preguntabas antes, que te has
Seeing as you played in the Premier League, I would like to ask you
proceso de similitud le puedes ver
what
a los últimos
similarities
Manchester hasta llegar a este
do you see
y si en algo se puede
between Manchester United and Barça
estos últimos años
and the
de falta de competitividad en Europa para
lack of
también a esta
competitiveness,
eliminatoria en una competición como la Europa League.
in this case in the Europa League?
Te quería preguntar por las similitudes
Again, the similarities between Barça
del Manchester
and Manchester United
en Europa de sequía
these last few years and their underwhelming performances
enfrentan en la Europa
on the European competition, in this case, the Europa League.
Bueno, creo que son dos de los mejores equipos del mundo.
They are 2 of the best clubs in the world.
Que hay momentos
It's normal that
tan buenos y
they go through peaks and troughs.
pasando en las últimas temporadas que Manchester también viene de unas temporadas un poco malas para
See that
el club. Pero es
certainly Manchester United has underperformed given the
difícil, entonces
type of club it is.
hay que saber cambiar el chip para poder
You need to know how to change
ser mejores.
the chip in order to become better
Hola, buenos días.
and perform well.
Hockey Mundo Deportivo. Una cuestión, ustedes en la primera fase de la temporada,
In the first phase of the season,
europeos no se pudieron clasificar para Champions.
you didn't
Aprendido de los errores
qualify for the next round in the Champions League. Did you learn
mejorar ahora.
your lessons from those matches?
Partidos se aprende un poco
I
más
think you learn from all games
los errores.
that you play. It's normal that
Entonces nosotros
players want to compete
vamos a seguir
at the highest level.
errores, pero
Of course, we will also continue to commit mistakes, but we need to improve with every passing game and practice session.
Sabemos que en los entrenos una de tus virtudes de tu fútbol
We know that one of your virtues
de fuera del área. ¿Qué falta
is to
que te podamos ver marcar?
score or at least shoot from outside of the 18-yard box. What do we need to do to see you do that more here?
creo que yo tengo que intentar un poco más.
Well, I think I need to try it a little bit more.
Un poco más difícil con
It's a little bit more difficult as well when there are no spaces, when the opponents play in a low block.
Cuando hay pocos pases es muy difícil.
It means they're are very few spaces to shoot from outside. But I'm going to try to do what I used to do, which is shoot from distance. But I'll do that when I have a little bit more space.
Hi, Raphinha. Question in English. Simon Peach from PA. Just wondering what you've made of the improvements Manchester United have made this season under Eric Ten Hag, and as you'll be aware, Leeds and Manchester United don't get on very well. So have you had any special messages from Leeds asking you to win this tie?
Bueno, como ya había hablado,
as I've just said, Manchester United is one of the best clubs in the world. They went through a rough batch for a few seasons, but they're a great team with great players, and what they're doing now, they're doing that because they've got great quality, and they're a great club.
¿Qué tal, Rafinha? Carlos Monfort en directo para el Quiz de Gigantes. Dices que estás en proceso de adaptación.
You said you're in the process of adaptation, but we're seeing you play at or execute at a very high level. We're seeing an improved version of Rafinha. What has changed? Have you changed from a physical aspect or what? I think mentally I've improved. Physically, I was always good. But mentally, I'm better now. Of course, it's normal to have some doubts when you move to a new club. But I'm better now than when I started, and hopefully this will continue.
Hola Rafinha, Nacho Jiménez de Más que Pelotas. En muchas ocasiones Xavi Hernández ha salido en rueda de prensa.
Xavi has come out many times in these press conferences supporting you, giving you support. How many private conversations have you had with him?
Bueno, yo creo que las charlas privadas son importantes con todos.
The private chats are important for all players. It's important to know that your coach and the coaching staff trust you. So these private chats are important for all of us. Well, for me personally, it was important because I was in a new club. So each and every time that the staff can give you confidence, well, then all the better. Coming up next is Xavi Hernández.
The words there from Rafinha in this press conference spends a little bit of everything, a little bit about the game, about his personal moment. Also, in one of these last questions, he was saying, I've always been informed, but probably I've changed a little bit mentally in these recent months, weeks, and that's why now I'm in my best moment since I arrived to Barcelona.
Yeah, and he also talked about a little bit what we were saying earlier, is that every club goes through difficult times. We're familiar with the difficult times that Barça have been going through, and that United have been in a similar fashion, and that both teams right now are on the up. So this upcoming tie is something that only one team is going to get through. That's what we know.
I will say that many United fans will change for FC Barcelona because we have always been comparing these two situations, but for me, it's true, Barça hasn't won a trophy for the last year and a half. They won a Copa del Rey with Ronald Koeman, and then 2 leagues with Valverde. So United, last time winning important trophies was years and years ago, at least for me.
And they got
it's a different situation.
Well, and they got really close too, right? They ended up falling to the club that Barça just saw earlier this week in the Europa League final a couple years ago, in United and Villarreal, and who knows if that game goes in a different way. It came down to the 11th penalty between keepers. I think De Gea and I can't remember who put it away for Villarreal off the top of my head. I think was it Rui? Was it Rui? Yeah. So history changes with one kick of the ball.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Post-era Sir Alex Ferguson has been really tough for United, but now with Ten Hag, it's true that it seems that they're improving, and same with Barça, with Xavi Hernández in this second season now in charge of the team, leaders of the league, in the semi-finals of the Cup, playing these playoffs of the Europa League, probably and I don't want to, of course, give any kind of excuses, but the fact to have too many injured defenders, some controversial actions with the referees, and at the same time, the fact to have this World Cup and the Champions League was so compressed was completely against Barça in this group stage of the Champions League.
Yeah, and when I look at the 8 teams on the right-hand side that Barça could have faced, those were the options, right? They could have faced any of those 8 teams. I think the easy answer is to say that you didn't want to see United because they felt like the toughest opponent even back then when the draw happened. But I think at times for a lot of people, because they're in the Premier League, because they're always high profile, even though they haven't been as successful, they're the most well-known, familiar team among those 8. So that's not to say that the other 7 aren't teams that you should be, you shouldn't be worried about. I think any of those draws would have been difficult, especially PSV, Union, Berlin. It was going to be a difficult task regardless of who Barça ended up getting.
And for a player who has been used to play Champions League most of the seasons, you may say, to be in the Europa League, it's going to be tough to motivate him. But if you are facing United, Spence, I don't think any player will need any motivation at all.
No, and a number of these players have played against United before, too. Raphinha's one of them. We just saw that United played Leeds the last 2 games that they've played the last week. Of course, that's Raphinha's former team. He knows what it's like to take on a team at Old Trafford, and next week Barca will do that. This week they take care of business at home.
We are waiting now to Xavi Hernández for the press conference previewing this game against Manchester United. Spence, yeah, let's talk a little bit about Xavi. Which credit do you give him of the fact to have changed this situation for Barca? Because it's true that last year there are some hikes and downs, good moments and bad moments. Same happens with the start of this campaign with the knockout of the Champions League, but right now it seems that he has found the way of this change for Barcelona in terms of results and also I think the way of playing.
Yeah, and he's always honest when he's asked about something. He doesn't always give you the full answer, but he's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. And this season, after every game, he has pinpointed where the points of improvement need to happen and what he was pleased with each game. After the game against Villarreal, he said, look, we played better than what we have with other 1-0 games that we've won, because in other 1-0 games we would suffer a lot. I would say that any 1-0 victory you're going to suffer, but I would say on Sunday, Barca suffered less than what we've seen with other games where it feels like the equalizing goal is around the corner. And Xavi has been very honest throughout this process. He's honest in these press conferences here. I wouldn't be surprised to see him ask the same question 2 or 3 or 4 times and politely give an answer that is either slightly different or kindly reminding the reporter that this question has already been asked.
Now the challenge for Xavi, of course, is to end well this season, because it's true that also last year, months of January, February, and March, after the Super Cup, we can say, he achieved really good results, but then when April and May arrived, things will change again in the negative way. So do you agree with me that the challenge now is to stay at this top level now in these 3-4 months that we still have competitions?
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with that. But I would also say that the last month that we've seen from Barca, who have played, I wouldn't say their best form, but their best form of results, because they're continuously getting results, winning the Supercopa, advancing in the Copa del Rey, albeit with extra time here and there that they need. Now the test is going to begin because the games elevate in importance, and they also aren't going to stop from 1 week to the next to midweek. We've got a midweek game this week. We've got a La Liga game this weekend. There's another midweek game against United after that. Should you advance, you're going to have more midweek games in the knockout stages. And the games, and they got the Copa del Rey, these games aren't going to stop. So they have to stay healthy and stay fit, and that's really difficult to do.
No, and the fact now is the importance of Xavi now managing the squad, for sure, because with 11 players, it's not going to be enough for him to manage all these kind of situations, to play 3 competitions. So you will need at least 16, 17, 18 players to be involved in all these games. Because suspensions and injuries will appear and will arrive for sure.
Yeah, and without reinforcements in the January transfer window too, which we understand that there were more restrictions placed on Barça to make that happen. But if you remember last year, the additions that Barça made, we had to choose which players we were going to put into the Champions League among the 5 that were signed, because you could only add 3. And they went with, Adama and Aubameyang and Ferran. So you have to make these decisions, and now it might seem like if somebody needs to step up and there isn't the direct replacement behind him, as Kessié has done with Busquets or Raphinha for Dembélé, you might need to dip into that young batch of players as well, like Ángel Alarcón or Pablo Torre. Those players might need to play a role at some point.
Absolutely. In this case, we reviewed Man United's winter transfer market with some players arriving on loan. The case of Barça has been the opposite one. We have lost Memphis, one of the strikers of FC Barcelona, and also Bellerin, the right back who has moved to Sporting Lisbon. So another point here, Spence, is Barça has lost 2 players, no one has arrived. Of course, we all know the economic situation of the club. And here is where, as you were pointing out, there are some names that can be important. The one who has showed this is Kessié, using this opportunity after the injury of Sergio Busquets. Starting lineups for him in the last 2 league games, and importance for Kessié in the squad also, after not being as so many protagonists in the first part of the season.
And Raphinha just said in that interview that we just saw in that press conference, he said, when you arrive to a new club, it takes you a moment to understand the new situation, to get used to it. Finally, I think Kessié is starting to feel that. It does take time. Let's hear Xavi now.
Xavi Hernández, let's see if he answers all our doubts and also the doubts from all our colleagues in the press room, for sure, about the possible lineup tomorrow, the fact to play with 4 midfielders. He's smiling, he's happy. It's now the moment for Xavi Hernández in this press conference room at Ciutat Esportiva. Joan Gamper.
Comencem la roda de premsa amb el tècnic del Futbol Club Barcelona, Xavi Hernández. Recordeu, nom i mitjà abans de cada pregunta, una pregunta per torn. Sisplau, comencem. Cesc.
Hola Xavi, què tal? Cesc Vilalta de Barça TV. Demà torna la competició europea al Camp Nou contra un gran rival.
Tomorrow the European competition is back at the Spotify Camp Nou. What do you expect from the game? It's going to be a big game. It's a spectacular knockout round for all neutral football fans. Arguably, both teams arrive in their best form so far this season. I believe that Ten Hag has certainly changed this team. It was difficult at first, but now he's doing an excellent job. They're a potent team with a physical fortitude. They have a lot of weapons, and it's going to be a difficult knockout. I expect a lot of intensity, a lot of rhythm. That's what you expect from English sides, and this is in the European competition, so we want to show that we can play at the highest level, and it's a great game for us. I expect the best.
Precisament sobre això del rival et volia preguntar. Per tu aquest Manchester United d'ara mateix és un equip de nivell Champions?
Is this Manchester United of Champions League caliber? Well, we're in the Europa League. Neither of us have managed to get to the Champions League. They're in great form. They play great. They've gotten great results. And you see that in the last few games. You see them very strong. And it was about time to see Manchester United play like this. They play with a lot of rhythm, intensity. You can't say that it's a Champions League caliber knockout round because we're in the Europa League, but it will be a high caliber elimination.
Jo et volia preguntar per la pressió. Us sentiu pressionats?
Do you feel pressure given the economic circumstances of the club? You were eliminated prematurely from the Champions League.
no només de l'equip, sinó del club també a nivell institucional?
Is there pressure?
No ho sentim així.
No, we don't feel that in that way. We feel pressure in any game, like the final of the Super Cup. And in the Copa del Rey, we will feel it again. This is Barça. These challenges come your way each and every week. It's like it's like Groundhog's Day, you know, the movie. This is Barça. We need to play the best way possible, show our excitement, and try to manage the euphoria surrounding the club at the moment. We need to continue to work hard with humility. We're in this competition now, and we face a very difficult opponent. It's going to be complicated, but we don't feel extra pressure because of it, no. We have this pressure because this is Barça.
Bon dia, Xavi. Aquí, Pol Ballús, per Dialèctica, a la teva dreta.
Hola.
Aquí. Et volia preguntar per un jugador en concret, el rival, per
I wanted to ask you about Marcus Rashford. When you played against Madrid, you used Araujo more as a wing-back. I don't know if you will expect to use a similar system or style of play to slow down Marcus Rashford. I don't like to advance these kind of things. We're not just dependent on one player of Manchester United. We need to try to anticipate what they'll do in attack and defense. That we know that they are quick in transition, in particular Rashford, but also Nacho and Sancho. They can all be reference points. They transition very quickly. They are quick on the counter. It's going to be difficult for us, and we need to be able to correct these sprints or transitions of Manchester United.
In English?
Sí.
Okay. Hola, Xavi. Andy Mitten.
Hola.
You nearly signed, Manchester United tried to sign you as a player. You played your first European game at Old Trafford under Louis van Gaal. You played against Manchester United many times. What's your perception of the club and memories from when you played against them?
Well, when we play against these kind of clubs, Manchester United, in my opinion, is a big club in Europe. Of course, they are not in the best moment of their history, but they are Manchester United. We respect them a lot. We respect Ten Hag, all the players. Now they are in a very good moment. They are positive, good results in the last weeks. So very difficult. We respect a lot them. Even we are in Europa League, but we respect them a lot. It will be really tough and really difficult to beat them.
Buenas tardes, Xavi. Alfredo Martínez, Onda Cero.
Buenas tardes.
¿Entiendes que el ganador de esta eliminatoria pasará a ser el gran favorito para ganar el título?
Do you think advancing to the next round you'll be the favorite to win the title? And do you expect a level playing ground?
Salvo sorpresa para mí mañana, yo creo que se decidirá.
Yeah, I think
en Old Trafford, ¿no?
Unless a major surprise happens tomorrow, the deciding game will be that in Old Trafford. We're playing two games. It's a knockout round, but tomorrow very little will be decided. We play at home.
Nos hemos ganado de alguna manera en esta competición en Europa, ¿no?
But nothing will be won after just one game. I don't think we're favorite, but Manchester United neither. There's been a combination of results why certain teams are now in the Europa League, and it's going to be difficult to win this competition.
Alejandro. Hola, mister. ¿Qué tal? Alejandro Segura, en directo para Radio Marca. Buen día.
Buen día.
No sé si tienes la sensación, tal y como está el equipo ahora, que está en el mejor momento de la temporada, está muy bien defensivamente, también muy bien ofensivamente.
Defensively, offensively, the team is in the best phase of the season. If the team would have been like this in October or November, right now, you would have been playing the Champions League.
Ya no podemos volver atrás, claro.
Yeah, but we can't rewind time. If you think hypothetically, a lot changes. Or we could have tactically done things different with players. In the end, it's a competition. We weren't up to the task, and that's why we're in the Europa League. That's it. Tomorrow, we want to win this competition. We're in a good moment, and we need to continue. We need to demonstrate it every game. Every match here in Barça and every press conference is a test. This is the demanding club. The club demands the best, and as do you guys, so it's difficult. So we need to show it every game. It's 16 games that this team has gone without a loss. You said, you quoted Groundhog's Day in terms of every game is the same. But isn't this a little bit more important given the competition and the opponent you're facing? Yeah, but also Sunday against Cádiz will be important because it's 3 points. This one is important, but also the one in Old Trafford and also the next round. That's how it is. We have to take things game by game. Tomorrow, come out motivated. So I just heard that the stadium will be pretty much full. That's fantastic. We need to be meeting our fans' expectations. It's pretty clear. Your footballing philosophy and ideas. The team right now is in a process of growing offensively as well, and defensively the corrections seem to be working. You always defended that Barça is growing defensively.
¿Pero a quién me dirijo? Es que no lo entiendo.
I don't understand. Is this a message?
¿Pero de quién?
A message from who? What?
Bueno, yo soy de parte de los otros.
Oh, I'm more on the other side.
Sin nada más. No tengo que convencer a nadie.
I don't need to convince anybody. I need to convince my players from a game, a style of play, which I think they are interpreting very well and executing on a pitch. It was hard. It was a change of style, but I think we're growing, yes. And when it comes to convincing, I need to convince my players, the board, and the club members, and our fans. And in that sense, I think we're all in the same line. The stadium is full. The players are convinced. In fact, they sacrifice to the maximum each and every game. I see the president every 2-3 days. He's happy. He's happy how we play with Mateo and Jordi Cruyff. The same thing. So I'm calm. I'm cool, calm, and collected. And for those who aren't on board, well, too bad for them. But this is my idea.
Convencidos dentro lo estamos.
So we're convinced, yes. Within the club here, we're very convinced.
Eric Ten Hag said this week that he thought Marcus Rashford was one of the most dangerous strikers in Europe. Would you agree?
One of the most, yes, fully agree, because it's very fast. He has very good dribble, 1v1. Yes, in the transition is very, very dangerous. So yes, we need to take care all of them, but especially Rashford is, yes, one of the most dangerous players now in Europe. Yeah.
David McDonald from the Daily Mirror. Manchester United tried to sign Frankie de Jong last summer. There was a huge saga lasting many weeks. How did he react, and how did that affect him in terms of all the uncertainty over his future? And how impressed have you been with his form this season? And do you feel that he may have a personal point to prove against Manchester United tomorrow, given what happened last summer?
No, I think he was really clear to me. He wanted to stay with us, so there was not doubt. So now He's our player. I'm really happy and satisfied with his performance, his leadership. He's in a very good moment, like all the team. So now, Frankie, I think he's enjoying on the pitch, and this is the most important thing.
David Ibáñez.
Hola, Xavi.
Hola.
Buen día, David
Buen día.
Ibáñez de Mediaset. Decías ahora que bueno, que cada partido aquí hay que demostrar.
You said that in each and every game you need to prove yourself. Tomorrow is a good game to put your stamp on the map and to show that Barça is able to compete in Europe. Yeah, it's always important. And yes, in Europe, perhaps even more so after several seasons where we haven't had success. It's the Europa League, but it's important for us to show that we are able to compete here in Europe, for sure.
Elena, sí.
Hola, Xavi, Elena
Hola.
Comis de la cadena COPE. Llegáis seguramente en el mejor momento de la temporada, líderes.
You arrived to this match, the best moment of the season. You're leaders in the league. This is Europe. It's been difficult these past few seasons. Have you learned from these past mistakes? And if you're not bothered by hearing the anthem of the Champions League. No, it does bother me. Given our grandeur and history, we should be in the Champions League, but we didn't pass the test. The reality is this: we're here in the Europa League, which is a beautiful competition, given the teams that are competing in this competition, and we're going to try to advance.
Bon dia, Xavi.
Bon dia.
Anaïs Martí de La Vanguardia. L'últim que es va jugar un partit d'Europa League aquí al Camp Nou.
The last time you played a Europa League game here in the Camp Nou, there was a invasion of Germans.
Hagi iniciat aquest sistema de control, d'identificació a l'hora
Is the club implementing a system of control?
que demà estarà ple, però d'aficionats.
Tomorrow will be full, but hopefully of Barça fans. Yeah, we can't make that same mistake again. So as a club, I hope that the fans will come out and show their best side. I hope this won't happen again.
Aquí, Aurora. Més endavant. Aurora, darrere. Sí.
Hola Xavi, Aurora
Hola.
Fuster per a Principal.cat. Volia preguntar-te respecte a la defensa i respecte als gols que heu encaixat a la Lliga.
Question about the defense. The goals conceded, 7.
A la Champions vau arribar a encaixar fins a 12. Quina diferència hi ha
And in the Champions League, 12. What difference is there, Barça in Europe and the league? We try that aren't any differences. And tomorrow we want to compete in the best way possible in this competition. It's difficult. We face good opponents. We want to work hard in defense to recuperate possession, make sure the defensive lines are well organized and that we win our area duels. But tomorrow is a game where we can show that we are able to be competitive defensively in Europe as well.
Des de la temporada passada, el gol fora de casa no val doble.
Last season,
Sergio Ramos s'ha encarregat de recordar en l'eliminatòria del Barça. La meva pregunta és...
last season the away goal advantage was eliminated.
O preferia que fos com abans, que en casa...
Do you prefer this new rule, or do you prefer the advantage before? I think it's more just now. I think right now it's good that if the game ends in a draw, that you go into extra time and you focus on beating your opponents with a playing time giving.
Josep. Sí. Josep Capel de Radio Nacional de España. Buenos días, Xavi.
Buenos días.
Hoy han vuelto a salir informaciones de ámbito institucional. Simplemente quería preguntarte si tú este tipo de cosas las sigues.
Do you follow the institutional news and updates? Does it arrive in a dressing room? Does it affect you, or you might already be used to it given how many years you've been here? What are you referring to? There are possible payments through the vice president that are being fiscally being researched.
Bueno, la verdad que me intento centrar en el fútbol.
I try to focus on just the sporting aspect, but that's this club.
venir a la rueda de prensa, que prácticamente acabamos el entreno hace 10-15 minutos.
We've just finished training, and I was told about this. The club has made a statement. So these are things that happened when I wasn't at the club. The club has spoken out, and that's it.
Buenos días, estoy en Holanda. Ten Hag, el entrenador, ha dicho que siempre quiere jugar en el estilo de Cruyff, usted también.
Ten Hag has said he also always wants to play like Johan Cruyff. How can you two compare each other? For me, Ten Hag is a great coach.
De alguna manera, revertir la situación del United no era nada.
It wasn't easy to change the situation in Manchester United. They're happy again. I think also the way that they're playing says a lot. He has a lot of variance in attack. Defensively, they all work very well, and they're a difficult opponent. I think he's a very interesting coach for me. He does things very well. He varies with the three lines. Sometimes the pivots play on the outside. A lot of people incorporate in attack. He's very offensive, and you see that in pretty much all his matches. He's a reference point for all of us offensive coaches that love this style of play.
Hola Xavi, bon dia.
Bon dia.
Adrià Albeig, en directe pel Què t'hi jugues de Ser Catalunya. Aquesta informació que hem explicat nosaltres avui
This information
els pagaments que el Barça
about these payments that Barça paid to the refereeing committee. There are certain sources that have come out that say this was happening since 2003. Do you remember when you were a player then how you guys needed to behave with referees and all that? Yeah, we're always aware of who referees a game, and we work on this since many years. There's not anything new about this. Internally speaking.
Què tal, Xavi? Carlos Montfort, en directe pel Twitch de Hernández. Et volia preguntar per un nom propi, Ronald Araujo.
Ronald Araujo.
Està fent-ho molt bé aquesta temporada,
He's
especialment ell.
playing very well in defense, particularly in that game against Villarreal. What are your expectations of him?
És un líder, a part de les condicions que té.
Araujo's a leader.
Físiques, tècniques.
He's got great physical and technical abilities. He's got leadership.
És un defensa absolutament
He's
bestial, no diria.
Tremendous defensive player. He's got the conditions to mark an era here and worldwide. There are few players that have this tactical, technical, and physical abilities, and he's a spectacular player for us.
Well, the words there from manager Xavi Hernández in this press conference room before this big clash tomorrow of Barça Man United. Let's have a look on the squad list that has been published just before this press conference of Xavi Hernández, with all the players that are going to be in this game tomorrow against Manchester United. There we go. No surprises at all with all the available players except Sergio Busquets and Ousmane Dembélé that are out injured. And well, we have some names from Barça B, like Marc Casado and Ángel Alarcón. Of course, well, Pablo Torre now Tenas, and in this case, Xavi here with number 30, but he's not anymore Barça B player. Spence, excited to see Marc Casado and Alarcón, especially in this squad list?
Hey, you never know. I mean, you need something to change. You need to make a last-second adjustment. Like, you never know, but I'm excited that there are several names on there that we trust on both sides of the ball, in attack, in defense. This is a team that I trust for tomorrow.
Well, so that's all from here from the studio on this preview of Barça Live with this good game, Barça Manchester United. Spencer Siegel, thank you to be here with us today, and I'll see you tomorrow. You will be here also in the studio.
I sure will. I'm looking forward to it.
We will start at 5:45 p.m. Local time in Barcelona, the preview from the Spotify Camp Nou in this Barça Live, then of course with the game commentary and the best post-match analysis. So tomorrow 5:45, stay tuned. That's all from here. Thank you very much. Barça Manchester United, what a game, kicking off tomorrow.